ride with Noni many years ago, and basically, I just finished a very uh, unsatisfying service done by a lay member at West End Temple, and so I decided to come over to
Okay,
a
we're
real
live
one.
on YouTube now.
You were here before
Yes,
with a friend.
yes, with Marshall and his daughter at one point.
I'm going to
Yes.
go ahead and mute everybody. You can hear me on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I've just muted everyone, and we are going to begin. That is not what I wanted. Hang on. Let me share the correct thing. Here we go. That's it. All right. So if you have a prayer book, do you have a prayer book? Yay. The page numbers in the prayer book are the ones that are blue and in brackets. Those are the numbers I'm going to be calling out. Also, everything is up here on the screen. Oh, well, not as perfectly as sometimes, but we're going to leave it that way. So page 128. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. How good it is and how pleasant when brothers and sisters dwell together. That's from Psalm 133. And let's just take a moment now to look around if you want to. Look, well, you can't see very much on the screen. People on Zoom, you can look around on your screen and just take a moment to enter into Shabbat for yourself. And whatever that may mean, whether Shabbat is a time for rest or a time for delight, whether there's something on your shoulders that you'd like to put down that you've been carrying around this week, metaphorically or actually. Yeah. See if you're holding tension somewhere in your body that you'd like to take a breath and release that tension when you let it out. Page 127 in the bracketed numbers. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. The candle blessings are on pages 120 and 121. Janice, would you come up? Oh, I didn't light the little candle. Do you want me to light the little candle, or are you good with a match? Okay. Thank you. why it's so short.
It's okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. We turn now to the Kiddush. It's on page 123. And I'd love to invite Nathan Schrader to come up. If you're able, I invite you to rise. And you need to come to the microphone.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kadsho b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'mahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uv'ratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim, amen. Thank you. Yasher koach. I feel like Nathan's been holding out on us. It was beautiful. That's better, right? You may be seated. Page 128 again. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. The Baruch Hu is on page 146 in the bracketed numbers. If you're able, I invite you to rise. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach Mevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. On page 148 in the blue numbers, I invite you to read with me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Page 150. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu, uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו Israel. The Shema is on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 157, I invite you to read with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 158. Yabba ba bim bim bam, yabba ba bim bam, yabba ba bim bim bam, yabba ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba ba bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar bakodesh. Norati lot o sefele, norati lot o sefele, mahalechutecha rauvanecha, bokei ayam livnei Moshe, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, yabba ba bim bim bam, yabba ba bim bam, yabba ba bim bim bam, yabba ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba ba bim bam. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 162. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. As we prepare for the tefillah, I want to share with you a poem by Mary Oliver. This is not in your prayer book. The real prayers are not the words, but the attention that comes first. The little hawk leaned sideways and, tilted, rode the wind. Its eye at this distance looked like green glass. Its feet were the color of butter. Speed, obviously, was joy. But then, so was the sudden, slow circle it carved into the slightly silvery air, and the squaring of its shoulders, and the pulling into itself the long, sharp-edged wings, and the fall into the grass, where it tussled a moment like a bundle of brown leaves, and then again lifted itself into the air, that butter-colored clenched in order to hold a small, still body. And it flew off as my mind sang out, oh, all that loose blue rink of sky, where does it go to and why? I invite you to rise for the tefillah beginning on page 164. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, תומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. בי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. You may be seated. Page 173, I invite you to read with me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. We have come to Modim, our blessing of gratitude, and it's our minhag, our custom here, to take a couple of moments at this time and give anyone who wishes a chance to share something that you're feeling grateful for today. So if you're on Zoom, you could add them in the chat, or you can just indicate by electronically or even actually raising your hand that you want to speak out loud, and I'll call on you. So, Diane Schenker.
I am grateful for good friends, for good family, but especially to my children that don't know what to do for me or how much to do for me. Thank you.
Amen. Patricia.
I am grateful that you're back, and I'm grateful to see everybody here.
Thank you. And Modim Nachnu Lach. Karen is grateful for a beautiful summer day at the beach today. Charlotte is grateful for Zoom, as am I. What about anybody here in the room? Anybody feeling grateful today? I'm grateful that I'm healed from COVID. Yay! No? You're not grateful for that? Yes, I had negative tests yesterday and today right before I left to come here. So, yes, Sylvester.
Excuse me, Rabbi. In chat, I wrote the weather.
Oh, okay. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. Someone in the room is speaking, and I'll repeat it in just a moment. Go ahead, Sylvester. Yay. Sylvester said it's Sylvester's first time here, and he says he's so grateful for this moment and for how he was welcomed and how he already feels like he's been coming for a while. So next thing, we're going to ask him to start doing stuff. Anybody else? Helene did put the weather. She's grateful for the weather in the chat. Roseanne Levitt is grateful for my joyous recovery and for the recovery of her friends from serious surgeries. Modima Nachnu Lach for that. Linda Horowitz is grateful for family, especially her daughter, friends, good health, better weather, that I'm back, that Faith spent a few days away and returned safe and sound, and that her niece got engaged, grateful for everything. Modima Nachnu Lach, that's so much wonderful stuff. Eslin is grateful for the beautiful beginning of sunset in the Pocono Mountains. We're so happy for you being in the Pocono Mountains, Eslin. I'm into that. Anybody else? Go ahead, Louie. Oh, that's lovely. Louis wants to echo what Sylvester said and say that he's very glad to be here. And he said, looking around at all of these familiar faces that I've never seen before, and he feels comfortable the way he feels comfortable at his home temple in Seattle. So we're so glad you're here with us today as well. Julia. Yeah. Yay. Julia is grateful that she's here. She and her partner, you closed today? Oh, they're in the last stages of closing on a place in Brooklyn. And anyone who has ever bought a home knows how stressful that is. And so she came in feeling very stressed about all of that stuff. But now, being in this Shabbat environment, she's feeling a lot better and more relaxed, which is exactly what we're going for. Art is grateful for the service tonight. And I think Karen is already ready for the Misha Berach. Is that right, Karen? Yeah? Okay. All right. I mean, we can all be grateful for more things, and that's
I-
what.
I was driving and I was trying to put it in before I have to move again. So
Okay.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Okay.
You're welcome.
We'll be ready.
Okay.
Why
Okay.
am I echoing? Deanna, did you want to say something? I see that you're not muted.
I'm thankful that I can get from room to room by myself. That's really what I'm thankful for. And I just got a text from the hospital from my driver and friend who takes me to all the doctor's offices. And she was just admitted with pneumonia, and she's been recuperating from an accident. So I
Oh.
got a perfect person to do a Misha Berach for.
Okay, so we'll get to the Misha Berach and we'll include your friend.
Yes, Bonnie McDonald.
Okay. You might have to tell me again.
Will, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Modim anachnu lach, page 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Page 178 is our prayer for peace. Shalom Rav, great peace in our hearts and in our homes and in our world. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We have come now to our quiet prayer, a few moments at the end of the Amidah, that central section of prayers in our prayer service, when we add our own prayers, our own petitions, our own gratitude, anything that we want to add. There are words here on the screen and on pages 180 and 181. but this is definitely a time when we can use the words in our own hearts. We continue quietly. May the words of our mouths and the meditations in our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. We turn our thoughts now to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. Oh, I'm sorry, my mic was off that whole time. Thank you, Michael Rose, for telling me my mic was still off. Now it's back on. I'd like to invite you, if you're on Zoom, I'd like to invite you, if you have names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing this evening, you can put those names in the chat or raise your hand. Everyone will have an opportunity to add names out loud. We hold in our thoughts and in our hearts for healing this evening Ira Weiss, Allison Plummer, Rabbi Dara Lerner, Susan Sisler, Joellen Fox, Valerie Pace, George Landberg, Sarah Ratliff, Kenny Schweiger, Paul Gold, Joan Lifshitz, Deanna Roth, Jonathan Falkowski, Martha and Ed Vincent, Ingrid Grosso, Audrey Cohen, Eddie DeAngelis, Vicki Lightnaker, Nettie Trummer, Mia Gannon, Jeff Abel, Monica Bayer, Erwin and Patty Cohen, Jeffrey Schwimmer, Grace Schneider, Adonis Malmakis, Harold Dembo, Kennedy O'Brien, Billy Macri, Ira Singer, Mary Macri, Jeff Schwimmer, Carol Singer, Liz Yasuda, Mark and Paul Steiner, Celia Harvey Steiner, Celia Karp, Anne-Marie Rogan, Marion Mandel, Sharon Zinn, Nicole Moskowitz, Stephen Belay, Mike Wenzelberg, Sonia Schenker, Zita Novick, Norman Taylor, Paul Spoonseller, Emily Hart Roth, June Friedman, Lisa Gerson, Sheila Stanger, Harriet and Nat Fellner, David Wyckoff, Nikki Bierman, Joseph Mondano Sr., Michelle Bracco, Freya Kashmir, Delphine Wolf, Nancy Weintraub, Ray Lochran, Jerry Walfish, Gwen Bloom Weinstein. Baby Rocco Anthony, Matt Swenson, Pat Flood, Cindy Rabinowitz, Dr. Craig Rosenbaum, Stacy and David Mauser, Hannah Paines, Amy Balin, Augustine Davis, Damian Colon, Jerome Taylor, Ed Robinson, Joanna Marie, Teresa O'Sullivan, Jimmy Jenkins, Chanel Camabach, Julette Dale, Maureen Dale, Elena Aram, Warren Feliz, Sylvia Silva, DeAndre Wynn, Jennifer Magoob, Sarah West, Tamia Bethia Williams, Donna Clement, Lenny Fain, Florence Schoen, Cynthia Wilson, Kay Bonani, Jane Berman, Adele Milch, Sylvia Charles, Loretta Umlas, Kathy DeMello, Beatrice Galvin, Ernest Tornincasa, Murray Friedman, Dr. Helen Kramer, Helen Samuels, Harry Munns, Harriet Holtzman, Kayla Roberts, Joy Ojan, Merle Paisley, Margaret Cummings, Lydia Gent. Diane Schenker,
No, I'm okay.
Freema,
Martin Bennett, Debbie Kelly, Phyllis O'Neill, Kathy's brother Gabby, Elliot Drucker, Eric Platt, Diana Gonzalez, Richard Kurlander, Hassan Demir, Heather. Thank you.
Linda Kushner Silverman,
Jackson and Tara Kushner, David Gershon, Carol and Stevie Doppelt, Ruth Gordon, Sherry Jacobs, Harvey Crevoy, and Joel George. Thank you.
also Jenny. If you're here in the room, if you have names to add, I invite you to raise your hand or rise so that I can acknowledge you. Elaine? Janice? Louis? Ruth? Okay, as Ruth said, we also include all of those who were harmed and whose homes were destroyed in Maui, as well as those who are suffering due to other natural disasters around the world. We include also those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, and those who have been harmed in other recent disasters, including human-created disasters. Our Misha Berach is on page 371. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. If you've been following the news from Israel, you know that the political unrest there has not let up. Protests in the streets have been going on for weeks, Already, in March, when I was invited to go with a group of New York rabbis for a UJA Federation mission trip, the Knesset, Israel's parliament, has moved forward with judicial reforms that critics say threaten Israel's democracy by removing the only check on parliamentary power. There's still a ways to go with the judicial reforms. Only the first law has been passed, but people are very concerned about it. The protests have been continuing, with crowds blocking streets, including the major Ayalon highway in Tel Aviv. Police have sometimes responded with violence, and sometimes they're spraying protesters with water cannons. And something that doesn't get reported about these water cannons is that they're not shooting fresh water, they're shooting sewage water. Yeah. One of the concerns that I've heard expressed by Israelis is that in the process of this protest, in this division of their society, something essential is being lost on both sides across the board. They say that in the past, there has always been an essential sense of solidarity among Israeli Jews. The feeling that underneath anything else that may happen, all Israeli Jews are achim, brothers. And I'll just say parenthetically that perhaps because Hebrew is a very gendered language where every word is either masculine or feminine, Israelis seem more hung up, or actually less hung up on, using masculine language for all genders than, say, I am. Maybe it doesn't bother you at all, so that's great. In March, an Israeli friend told me that a protester whose beliefs were on the other side of the issue from hers said something horrible to her because of her stance. Something like that her family should not have survived the Holocaust to come to Israel. And it was with pain that she said to me, "He is not my brother. I can't think of him in that way, not anymore." And I want to clarify that this is not someone that she knew personally. But in the past, someone with whom she differed in similar ways, she would still have considered a brother. The splits happening now in Israeli society seem to be threatening that essential sense of being family in spite of differences of belief, practice, and political opinion. And many Israelis worry about what that means even after the current crisis passes. This concept of being achim, being brothers and sisters, goes all the way back to the Torah. This week's Torah portion is Re'eh, from the book of Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, which is the series of the last speeches that Moses is making to the Israelites before he dies and they enter the land, it's easy to notice in Deuteronomy how conditional the relationship between God and the Israelites sometimes seems. Blessings if they follow God, curses if they don't. And that idea is definitely there, and I spoke about that last week. But Deuteronomy is also the book that is most concerned in the Torah with the most vulnerable in society. And Deuteronomy chapter 15, part of this week's Torah portion, is, in the words of scholar Patrick Miller Jr., the definitive chapter for discerning the centrality of Deuteronomy's concern that access to the blessing of God be available to all the members of the community, including those who, out of need and position, are least likely to enjoy the blessing. This perspective on Deuteronomy, stop talking, is about the book's concern for the communal nature of Israelite society when they are in the land, and making sure that God's blessing will be extended not only to those who are prosperous, but also to the needy. The ones most frequently mentioned are the widow, the orphan, and the Levite. Levites didn't have their own allotment of land because they were assigned to work in the tabernacle. Our Torah portion, therefore, includes the requirement that debts be canceled every 7 years, and that people should not refrain from lending money when the 7th year is near, because they know they're going to have to forgive the debt soon, and that a Hebrew may only be enslaved for 6 years and must not only be freed in the 7th year, but sent out with clothing and money to get started in their life as a free person. In the 15th chapter of Deuteronomy, again and again, the poor are referred to as achim, brothers. But not just that, your brothers, sometimes translated as kinsmen. I don't think the idea of considering all the Jews around the world to be part of the same family is a strange one to most of us. Some of us do feel a kinship, at least theoretically, with Jews wherever they are. Referring to the poor as our brothers and sisters in our Torah portion, writes Rabbi Shai Held, is because consciously or not, explicitly or not, it is extremely easy for people to imagine that socioeconomic inequality points to some real, deep, metaphysical inequality, as if the rich were in some ultimate way worth more than the poor. Do we think that? This summer, remember in June, there was all that publicity about the submersible that went down to the Titanic and disappeared on June 18th. The militaries of the US and Canada both looked for it for several days before determining that it had imploded and the 5 men on board died instantly. They had each paid $250,000 for the trip. On June 14th, a fishing boat with 750 migrants on board, traveling from Libya to Greece, capsized and sank. There was far less publicity about that, far less emergency response, and many more deaths. For many, the response to these 2 incidents, 4 days apart, provided a stark illustration of the way we believe that the rich are in some ultimate way worth more than the poor. Now, I don't think that there aren't any other reasons why the submersible got more publicity. One reason may be that we're very attracted to the idea of the Titanic wreckage. It's a very standing out kind of story. And how often does a submersible implode? And probably it's much more frequent that migrants in boats don't make it to their destination, which makes it perhaps less newsworthy. But then isn't that horrifying all by itself? Our Torah portion, by referring to the poor as your kin, your brothers, is pushing back against this idea that the rich are worth more than the poor, teaching us instead that wealth and poverty tells us nothing about the inherent worth of human beings. Rather, among the Israelites, as Walter Brueggemann writes, creditors have a relationship to debtors in this community that transcends shared economic reality. Among members of this community, economic realities are not definitional. Rather, what is definitional is a common memory of the Exodus, a common blessing in the land, and a common allegiance to the God of Exodus and land. What brings these people together is the Exodus, and what their socioeconomic differences are not the thing that is important. Deuteronomy teaches us that we must be generous to the poor, and that failing to do so is actually oppressing them. And the Torah is very clear that we must not oppress the poor. Remember that the literal definition of tzedakah is not charity, but justice. We don't help the poor because we're doing them a favor. We do it because it is unjust not to, and because they are family. We're not better or more virtuous than those less well off than ourselves, and it is our responsibility to help those less fortunate. Of course, poverty is a huge social issue, often without clear solutions. People of integrity can certainly disagree about what personal practice and social policy should be. What is clear for us as practitioners of Judaism is that we have a societal responsibility to help those in poverty in whatever way we see fit. May we be committed to economic justice for all, and may we be grateful if we are able to help those less fortunate than ourselves. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. We are turning now to the Aleinu. It begins on page 586 at the top of the page. I invite you, if you're able, to rise. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months, or in past years at this time of the year. I'm sharing our yahrzeit list to the screen. Those of you here in person have the yahrzeit list in your yellow bulletin. If you're on Zoom and have names to add for the mourner's Kaddish, please put them in the chat, but also everyone will have an opportunity to add names out loud. We remember those who have died in the past year: Joyce Kantrowitz, Joanne Pessin, Harvey Barkin, Amy Juskowitz-Soonseller, Joseph Shankin, Seymour Kaplan, Deborah Kosman, Leslie Hirsch, Samuel Capsuto, Fred Siegel, Jeremy Briel, Rosalind Baylor, Ilona Schuring, Donna Brines, Marshall Greenman, Ellen Hoyt, Roz Spicer, Lila Fox, Beryl Pelmont Jorgrau, Zelda Klein, Dr. Usha Gorty, Elliot Woofsey, Carol Davis, Jerry Prezioso, Charles Dentrone, Murray Schechter, John Honan, Dottie Weiss-Tabickman, Harold Shepard Jr., Eva Braxmajor, David Goldbrenner, Madeline Hyatt, Ed Friedman, Ronald Homan, Erwin Bernstein, Shirley Amrani, Harry Goldberg, Lisa Friedman, Eleanor Teplitz, Patricia Christensen, Thea Platt-Glasser, Sharon Cooper, William Fritz, Bernard Cohen, Lucy Palazzolo, Blair Ford. On our yahrzeit list today are included Lena Glantzman, Pam Glantzman's grandmother, Al Jaffe, Jerry Jaffe's father, Gladys Kerchick, Jeff or Lauren Levinson's grandmother, Joel Kushner, Linda Kushner Silverman's husband, Blanche Mate, Sarah West's aunt, Yehoshu Najman, Tamara Kerner's uncle, Roy Salisbury, Paul Salisbury's father, Joel Salisbury, Paul Salisbury's brother, Rose Salisbury, Paul Salisbury's mother, Claire Salisbury, Paul Salisbury's uncle, Louis Schwartzman, Ruth Levine's uncle. Herb Molberger, Matthew Brunner, Janet Fain, Sanford Kellen, Klein, Paul Markowitz, Beryl Grant, Eslin's mother, it'll be 21 years tomorrow, and Sharon Levitt. Freema?
On the yard list is two people. Ilsa Corcus, she was a great lady. I knew her from PTBAS, not as well as some other people did, but she was always so friendly and so nice. Maybe somebody else could say better, like Charlotte. And George Liss, who was Adelaide's husband, who I remember was very tall, but he was a very nice man. Thank you.
Thank you, Freema. Art?
Laid to rest today was Art DeMello, former chief of the Garrison Beach Fire Department, city fireman, and also a director at EMS, and trained about several thousand EMTs. In the period of Shana, we have Jay Hoffman and Gregory Bianco.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Yes, I wanted to mention that George List was the past president of the congregation in Borough Park. I wanted to mention Vivian Kaufman, who was a very devoted temple member. Ilsa Corcus was a Holocaust survivor. She was on one of the last of the kinder transports from Austria.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay. If you're in the room, if you would raise your hand or rise if you have a name to add. I wasn't sure if Ruth's funeral had happened yet. So, well, we include also all of those who have died from COVID-19, those who also have died from other causes, whether in war or famine, terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on the streets of our cities. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598, and I invite you, if you're able, to rise and join in or to participate according to your own custom. Page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved wherever they may be. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, Amen. A few announcements before we conclude our service. Next week is Rosh Hashanah.
What?
Of the animals.
Oh.
That was kind of a joke. No, it's Rosh Hashanah for behemoths, for domesticated animals. And in the olden days, this was for the purpose of tithing, but we don't tithe our pets these days. And so this is often used as a way to honor the animals that are in our lives. And so next Friday night and Saturday, we're going to honor the animals that are in our lives. So watch your email. If you're a member, you'll be getting a Google form from me where you can put in like a line about what your animals mean to you and send me a picture of your animals if you want to, and then I'll incorporate them into the service. I know if you've recently lost an animal, definitely will remember that too. Or even if it wasn't recent, but I know, I'm sorry. I know. But we are going to do that next week, and I hope it'll be nice. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have Biyachad, which is our discussion hour for grown-ups, where we get together and I throw out a question and people answer it with stories from their lives. It's a wonderful way to get to know people and to learn about other people, what other people have experienced. People have wonderful, wonderful stories to tell. So that's at 10 a.m. tomorrow, both in person and on Zoom in the community room across the lobby. At 11 a.m. is Shabbat services in-house and on Zoom. And we're going to have a song leader with us tomorrow who is, we're going to see like how it goes. So we're looking for feedback. So if you're able to come in person tomorrow and experience the song leader and give us feedback, that would be fantastic. Also, it's going to be a great service. And then from 1 to 4 p.m. in the community room is Portable Crafts small group, people who bring their crafts that are small enough to carry around and work on them together in the community room and chat and bring snacks, and it's fun. On Monday at 4 p.m. here in the sanctuary will be a memorial service for Deborah Kosman, who is a wonderful longtime member who died earlier this summer. On Tuesday, August 15th, is Israeli dance in person at 7:30 p.m. On Thursday at 1 p.m., August 17th, is Torah study, which I lead on Zoom. This is our deep dive into the Torah. We're in Genesis chapter 37. We get through approximately 5 verses a week because we discuss a lot and we read lots of commentators on them, and it's great. And then on Saturday, next Saturday, we'll have Torah study of the weekly portion, Parshat HaShavua, which is a much more kind of overview sort of Torah study, bigger themes and that sort of thing. So we'll do that next Saturday morning at 10. Choir practice is starting this Thursday, August 17th, if you want to be in the choir. This is in order to sing with the congregation during the High Holy Days. So choir practice is going to be every Thursday, starting this Thursday, August 17th, and through September 14th. Practice on the 7th and the 14th is mandatory. Next Friday at 10 a.m., I'll be leading Tat Shabbat here in the sanctuary. That's for children under age 5 with their caregiver. It's about half an hour. It's super fun. It's adorable. So if you have any little people, bring them. And our Honey from the Heart fundraiser is ongoing. If you'd like to order some honey to send to your loved ones for a sweet Rosh Hashanah, a sweet New Year, the order information is at honey.beshert.org, or you can contact Pam Glantzman if you're here in person. Her number's in the bulletin. There's a tzedakah plate on your way out of the sanctuary. And the oneg is going to be across the lobby in the community room. Any other announcements that I neglected? All right. Well, then, I invite you, if you're able, to rise. Yes, Linda. Linda? Oh. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat.